Okay, everyone, we're just going to give everyone a minute or two to get settled in before we start the webinar. Hello, everyone. I'm Neil Gavea, Associate Director of Alumni Engagement on the Brooklyn campus of St. Joseph's College, and welcome to today's webinar, Real Estate for First-Time Home Buyers in the COVID-19 Era. Today, we're joined by 2020 M.B.A. graduate Melissa Principi. Melissa is a third-generation real estate professional and a key component of her family's real estate development company. Specializing in land, luxury properties, fixer-uppers, and new construction, Melissa brings 10 years of sales and marketing experience to her clients. Born in the Hamptons, raised on the North Fork, and living in the Huntington, Melissa is a certified buyer's representative. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks, Neil. Hi, guys. So great to be here. And I was going to say, everyone's kind of trickling in, so we can always give it a little time. But I also want to introduce, and you guys can see him on your screen, my coworker. He and I work together, John Perfetti. And I will kind of share my screen in a second and introduce him a little better. But he is a senior loan officer for mortgages. So I thought it would be a really great kind of conversation to have both of us on. This is like, you know, we're gonna fill your head with lots of information. So let me share my screen and then we can kind of get going. And Neil, how are we on attendees? Do we want to give it a little time or?
Yeah, you know what, we can you could they're still trickling in, but you can.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So just exactly, let me see. So is that you could see my whole screen, right, Neil?
Actually, you know what, Melissa, what I was thinking, maybe we can kickstart things with a poll.
Sure.
You know, we could say who's looking to become, you know, looking into the home ownership process right now.
Oh, I like that. John and I, we want to know, right?
Yes, let's see who we're working with here. Okay, so everyone. Okay, I'm going to launch a poll. One moment. Okay. All right. How many people are currently looking into the homeownership process?
I'm going to say yes because I'm going to say yes too because
I'm voting too. I'm always looking.
Yes, it is. We are always looking, right?
Definitely.
So it looks like, Melissa, there's 88% of our attendees are looking into the homeownership process. So it's a good chunk of our.
I would think, yeah, that's great.
So, okay, all right. End that poll. And here's the results. Yep, 88%. So, all right.
All right. So here we're gonna kick this off a little bit. So first-time home buyers, like, you know, I always say it's kind of 101, but it really is. It's like speaking a different language. You know, John and I have been doing this for so long, so we kind of get into the routine of the things we always talk about. But I think it's nice for us to kind of drill back and start from the beginning, right? What's your first thing when someone's just either coming out of school? And like Neil said, I just graduated middle of COVID, right, with my M.B.A. But prior to that, you know, it was just working and I was renting in the city. So I was renting on Long Island. So I also myself took that jump, and John, you did too, right? But it was a crazy experience that you only have to do once and feel new at it. But even for us, it's constantly changing. So
it is every day.
Every day. So we'll sort of let's get this going here. So getting started, first steps. And then this is really, you know, it can be a dialogue. I also encourage everyone to kind of find the chat. If you guys, and Neil, I think you can enable the chat. It may already be enabled, but if not, it's not a big deal.
Yes, we encourage anyone with questions to just type them in the chat and we'll make sure it gets to Melissa.
Okay, cool. And then I'll see the chat pop up too. So I can help that way. If you guys want to ask questions throughout, feel free. And then if anything is, you know, worth sharing, I will definitely bring it up to the group. So, all right. My saying for even my friends who are just starting out and thinking about buying their first home is you never go shopping without your credit card, right? That's rule number one. I know we're a cashless society, so I can say that now. But what does that mean? I don't want people to start shopping and really not know what they can afford, because it's no fun. And I think people kind of get discouraged before they start getting into all the Zillows and this and that. It's better to know. So get pre-approved or get pre-qualified. And we're going to go into that with John more so on the next slide, but really talking about our generation, meaning myself as a recent alum, or even college students coming out, maybe 10, 12, 20 years out of school, getting pre-qualified. I know we all see Rocket Mortgage, all this stuff, Quicken Loans, all these quick things online, but I'm going to expand on that. Faster isn't always better. So that means in the industry, it might be nice to start out and say, maybe get an idea, but really going to your bank and getting pre-approved will show you what your buying power is. And then of course, now it's time to go shopping. So studying your market, Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia. My biggest tip for that, and I know we are all on our phones 24 hours a day, but I did have this pulled up. So for Zillow, a really nice trick when you're just starting out to, start house shopping is, even where I am here in the Huntington area, I pull up just a general map, right? Here's where I am. And then what I do is I hit filter on the top and I hit recently sold. I hit apply. And then instead of everything having a red price on it, it'll have a yellow recently sold price. This means everything for us in the industry. We get to see the comps. What is the area going for? This kind of gives you as a buyer a level up before you even start going out and saying, this is the town I'm focusing on. Look at those recently solds. Go through the pictures, say this has a great kitchen, this one doesn't. You start to learn the market a little bit, and that's always kind of my first step. Getting started. So here's where we'll expand on what you guys need. Oh, I think we already got someone going in the chat. Standard, not be more than 3 times. Oh, there we go. Realistic budget. We're going to get to budget. Don't worry. Long Island's a tough market. So we totally, we understand and we're living it too. So first, before getting into pricing and budgets, it's really about assembling your team. And what does that mean? First and foremost, like I mentioned, it's finding your lender, right? Who's going to give you that big loan? So working with John Perfetti, he's on here. People always come to me, even as their agent, saying, who do you like to work with? And I can't really steer someone to one person, but what I like to do is kind of give a few different people. And it's almost like matchmaking, right? Who do I think that person's going to get along with? Who do I know, is very familiar with a specific area? Personal bank. If you guys have a personal banking relationship, you can always start there through your agent. Maybe you already have an agent, and through your network, right? Utilizing tools like this webinar, going through your alumni network, going to someone who has a vested interest in you, aunt, uncle, cousin, whatever, starting there, it sort of gets the ball rolling. Finding your agent. So this is, sort of tooting my own horn. I do specialize with working with buyers, with first-time home buyers. And you'll see I have pictures of homes on this presentation. All of these were sold this year to first-time home buyers. So we'll play a little game towards the end, and I'll have you guys guess what the price was of my first-time home buyers. And it says the towns on there too. Just kind of a fun, little keeping people on their toes. But finding your agent, so someone who works with buyers. I have a certified buyer's representative designation, meaning I've taken extra courses, how to negotiate on your behalf, right? When you look at homes and you go directly to that listing agent, the listing agent really has the interest of the seller in mind. So it doesn't cost you anything to work with a buyer's agent. Nor, 99% of the time we get paid from the seller, right? From the selling commission. So it's really about finding someone who knows your area and is responsive. That's always my biggest thing, whether it's your lender, whether it's your agent, and then third, your attorney. I was going to try to get one of my friends who's a real estate attorney on here, but of course it's closing season, right? Before the end of the year, everyone's trying to get closings done. So he just didn't have a second, but an attorney who specializes in real estate. And I know that sounds silly, but you'd be surprised if someone says, well, my uncle is a tax attorney. Does that work? Trying to save money. It will cost you in the long run, right? Oh, my dad is a divorce attorney. Maybe your dad would do it, but find someone who knows these rules and the laws and talking about transfer tax or even the local laws, right? I grew up out in the Hamptons, and on the North Fork, we have our own set of taxes, and buyers just have to navigate differently. So it's important to have an attorney and a lender, because I know John and I have worked on a few deals on the East End, who knows those local laws. And then absolutely with all three, good rapport, because without that, it's you're married to these people for 2, 3, 4, 6 months, a year, and you want to have a good relationship and be able to pick up the phone and say, John, oh, Melissa, I have a question, or to your attorney, and then you want to feel comfortable. So, all right, guess the price. My little condo here in Smithtown. So this was actually a really interesting one. It was a first-time home buyer. She ran us all over creation, because I do think a lot of times on Long Island, people aren't married to one town. They really just kind of want to find the deal. And maybe now they have to get to the office a few days a week, or they want to get to the city, but doesn't have to be all the time. So any guesses on this one in Smithtown? Let's see. All right. Well, cheat sheet, right? It was actually 465,000. And John, I was like, we actually had her, she was pre-qualified, and we had to make sure the HOAs, right? We had to think about homeowners association fees, all her dues were included in that price. So not only on top of her purchase price with her mortgage, she also had to pay condo fees. So interesting facts, right?
Melissa, how many bedrooms was that condo? Just curious.
It was 3-bedroom.
Oh,
It was pretty big. Yeah, 2 bath. Yeah, it was good.
Good.
But
That's good.
I know, right off 347, not too far. All right, so next steps, and these are the questions John and I get all the time, is, am I ready to buy a home? I don't know, John, this is where we're gonna, right? I've got good credit, John. What does that mean? Credit score is 620 is what I said, right? Credit score of 620 or better. So you want to talk credit score for a second? Is 620
Sure.
the right number?
Yeah, so a 620, obviously, that's the floor, right? I mean, that's anything lower than that. There are places to fit a loan, but it's going to be more challenging, right? 620 is really what the investors, in this case,
Yeah.
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the individual lenders, that's what they're really kind of basing off of. But most people
Less
aren't
than
at
that,
620, but that's the floor.
less than that, do you think someone would need a cosigner or something like that if their credit was a little bit less?
So great question. That comes up all the time. Oh, if I bring a cosigner in, and their credit score is a 720, mine's a 620, will that help me? Unfortunately, it doesn't, right? Because when it comes to credit, the investors and the banks are looking at the lowest score of whoever's on the transaction.
Right.
So if I have a 620, Melissa, we're on the deal together, you have a 780, fantastic, but unfortunately your credit score doesn't change anything. Right. So, and credit score is really going to go by on a mortgage. It affects your interest rate and the type of product that you're getting. So really that's and credit and income is really the first thing that the banks are looking at, but credit is the most important.
That was exactly my next. So I've saved enough money, John. I feel like I've been saving for the last 10 years. I'm ready to buy a house. And when I work with buyers right now, it's challenging to have my first time home buyers that have a lower down, they want to put the least amount possible down, right? Really 5% is what we're seeing. Would you say 5%? I mean, lower than that, we're getting into different products or more.
Correct. So 5% down, you're looking at your standard Fannie Mae deal. Keep in mind there's loan tiers for whatever area we're looking in, right? So Long Island has different loan tiers, right? You go to different states, there's different loan tiers per the counties. So, but typically, yes, you can get into a house, say that condo at a 400 something price with 5% down if you wanted to.
Right.
100%.
So that's what I've been finding. And even so at a $450,000 house, you need $22,500 to put down at the closing table to start, to get your loan to buy that house. And I think the other question is that we get all the time is, okay, 22,000 might not sound like too much, but what are closing costs and how much is that? And I think, John, you and I are always sort of sticker shock when we see that. And we have to explain what closing costs in New York really mean. And that can be an additional 3 to 5% of your purchase price. And I keep that fluid because I mentioned about those local taxes. Certain areas may have different fees. But so think about that same house, 450,000. Now for just the closing costs, that means you're paying your taxes, your fees, your lawyers, certain things like that. That's about another 18,500. So your total cash on hand is really saying, I want to put the minimum down at 5%. I still need that extra money for closing costs. We're looking more so like the $40,000 range. So
Right,
closing costs, can that vary? Can you roll that in anymore, John? I know that used to be a thing.
So as far as closing costs goes, that's great. The way you said 3 to 5%, it's going to depend on the taxes. We also estimate in there homeowners insurance, right? So
Sure.
homeowner insurance,
Yep, forgot
homeowner
that.
insurance is something that the consumer as the buyer is going to shop for, but we have, I have a general idea of what insurance is going to be per kind of square footage. So that's what we're looking at as well. I get the call all the time. Oh, I have, I'm looking to buy. I have 10% down. I have 5% down. I have my 20% down. But they don't realize, like you said, that there is a bundle
Extra,
of
and that's always
third party fees.
third-party
right? So
fees. I said, we need a bumper sticker that says that, John. But
right.
it is, you feel bad because now, I'm even working with my cousin who's first-time home buyer, and we're going in, he's got a great job, he's been saving this and that. And then when we go to type up the offer, silly me, I didn't even ask. Hey, just making sure you have that extra, 3% for your closing costs. A big one, I'm tired of paying rent, especially in New York.
So Melissa, let's pause for a second. So on the
Yep.
closing costs and down payment also, keep in mind that there's ability to get gift from family members, right? So
You're
there's
on twice, John.
I am on twice because I was going on my computer.
That's so funny. I like it.
So
Hey, John.
give me one second. Hold on.
That's all right.
So
Yeah, no,
So-
exactly. Sorry, go ahead.
so the so there's, what was I just saying? So the closing costs, right? So there's the down payment. So we really want to just make sure that they have enough funds so you can get a potential gift from a family member, right? Proof of sourcing of that gift. You can pull money from your retirement account, your 403Bs, depending on what is available to them. So there are options to build
So
into
don't
that.
scare. Yeah. So we won't scare them, right?
To answer your question on can you roll in closing costs?
Yeah, I get that.
We all love HGTV, the home shows, and we can watch it. Out of states are very
Right.
different than New York, right?
Right.
It's easier to roll in costs because sellers are paying for it. Here in New York, you can roll it in, but there's an equation. There's appraisal's got to come in higher than the asking price. So there's a little bit, but we can go into detail if that is an option.
And that's also not necessarily an option in this market, right? That's what this whole webinar is about, is these tools. And when we're saying, yeah, you have 5% down, and oh, you want to roll your closing costs, or oh, you might need, that does not give you that buying power that I was talking about. That saying, oh, don't go out without your credit card. You want to have your best foot forward in something like this seller's market, because you're going up against probably 4, 5, 20, depending on the property. Yeah. And you have to look good on paper, so to speak.
So if anybody's coming in offer today, they're looking to roll in closing costs, I try to, tell them, we can do it, but you may not get that look in this competitive market.
Right.
2 years ago, yes, we were seeing it every day.
Yeah,
today
absolutely.
It's a little.
I was going to say, I saw someone raise their hand. If you guys have a question, feel free to put it in the chat, because I'm going to kind of go through and we can answer some things towards the end as well. So tired of paying rent. I know, John, we all know what that means in New York. It's just crazy. I'm here in Huntington, and the prices on rent are just crazy, even out here in Suffolk. So owning your own home, you do get added tax benefits, right? So it brings down your taxable income, this and that. And guess what? At the end of the day, you're building your equity with every mortgage payment. So I always say, use your house like a piggy bank, right? You're paying yourself back, and you're paying yourself instead of your landlord. So it's just one of those things where I think switching from paying rent to being that first-time home buyer, it's scary. But when you have your team lined up, when you have people giving you really solid advice and not sugarcoating, then it makes it a little bit easier. All right, so then let's see, my last one. Oh, no, here. So this is 825 Ocean Ave. This one's actually currently in contract in West Islip. Any ideas? Do I have any Islip people around here? So we actually, this is a good example. We actually listed it. We're going to close like on Friday, so I can talk about it. But we listed it at $499 and it actually went over the asking price. So I've been getting a lot of those questions, you know, is every house a bidding war? What's happening? This and that. I looked it up. The statistic is right now in Suffolk, you're going 1% over the asking price. So yes, homes really are on average selling a little bit more than their asking price, which can be a little scary. And I think people are still out there trying to get that deal, but it's, you know, you're getting what you pay for if you're really looking at it. So can I afford a home in New York? And I know we got a question earlier. So, oh, I like that. Yeah, 550. It was just shy of 550 to answer that one. The standard of buying a house should not be more than 3 times your income. So I do have the debt to income ratio that's going to be coming up. I do tend to glaze over with all these numbers. So we try to make it top line and fast, but John can explain. So how do you find, this is the question, John, how do you find out a realistic budget for Long Island real estate? So we're going to kind of bring it all together here. But let's say 43% is the magic number. So your total debt, meaning your car payments, your student loans, your mortgage payment, it must be 43% or less of your before tax income. John, does that make sense? Is that right? Is 43% still sort of the standard?
Yeah, depends on the product, right? So in some cases you go as high as 50%. With certain products, you can, some you have to be under 43. So it is a good range. We do have some wiggle room there.
Yeah.
Like you know, but if you're putting down less than 20%, you can't go as, you know, you don't really want to go higher than 45%. So there's a magic number for all the products, but 43 is really where most consumers are.
Right.
You know,
and you need a loan officer, or, you know, your lender to help you kind of navigate that. So this is
right.
just
And in that 43, so everybody understands,
yeah.
It's 43% of your monthly gross income. So that 43% is your housing payment, your taxes, insurance, and mortgage payment, plus all the minimum debt that comes out the credit report. So a car loan, credit card, car lease, student loan, stuff like that. We don't really care so much about the balances. We
Right.
look at the minimum monthly payment.
Making sure that you can crack that nut every month. And that's what I say
Right.
too. Like I use, even when I'm out and about, I often use mortgagecalculator.org. It's one of those little tiny things you could just quickly Google it if you're out and about and maybe you're going to an open house or something like that, or you're even with your agent. I always say, are you comfortable with that payment? Do you feel comfortable with that payment? Because I think people do have that in their mind, right? Whether it's 43%, whether it's that 33% or you know, it's kind of a nice threshold. But
And you gotta remember also, most people they're looking at the price of something, of, you know, your monthly payment, not the price of the house, right? So you're looking more like when you go for a shop for a car, you're looking at what's my monthly payment, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the house, really. What is my monthly
That's it. Can I make the monthly payment? Yeah.
Right.
Plus your
I love that,
taxes.
and that's my favorite part of is backing into somebody's budget and figuring out what they can truly qualify for, and then what is their realistic where they want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a puzzle. It is. I mean, that's what it's all about. So then this is just a little example, right? You're in 5,000 a month at 43%, that's 2,100. So then you have to, that's what John says, you're going to be backing into that. You're going to add your loan amount, you're going to add your annual taxes divided by 12, that kind of stuff, and see how it works. I also say too, for repairs, I always get this question. I do work, my family is in construction, so we do a lot of fixer-uppers. Me personally, I've done a few of my own kind of fixer-uppers and flippers and all that. 1 to 2% for annual repairs is kind of on the low side, wouldn't you say, John? Especially when you're buying a home that might be in that sort of, you know, I would say they're a little bit older homes, or maybe they need a little bit of work. I would definitely have first-time home buyers keep that amount in their head.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can knock down one wall and you can find 3 different things.
$10,000 later, yeah.
Yeah.
No, exactly. My sister's an architect too, so oftentimes we'll walk through and she'll say, you know, the first thing people say, "Can I take down that wall?" She said, "All it takes is money," right? Sure, you could take down that wall. All right, so guess that price. This is my last little fixer upper in Huntington, 22 Overlook Drive. John, you probably remember this one. We did kitchens, bathrooms, you name it. Any guesses on this one in Huntington? This is right before COVID though. So I have to say, yeah, I like that. 650, 550. There you go. Yep. So this one was right under 550. And it was, before the bidding wars and all that, but it was sold in like 6 days. So it was a nice feeling. All right, market statistics. I won't bore everyone too much on this, but it is important to sort of look to see where we are. Market statistics, I did it really more for New York Metro. So I have Brooklyn and Queens separated out, and then Nassau and Suffolk, because they're really all, I have to say, I dove into each one individually because I have sold condos, co-ops, and homes in Queens and Brooklyn, but I do focus generally on Suffolk County. So, being a buyer's agent, I have a team, right? I can always refer you to someone in your area, or we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together. Long Island is not that big of a place, right? I literally will drive from East Hampton to Huntington in an hour and a half. And I've seen it all at this, right, John? I was like, we've seen this. So COVID, right? This is year over year. So we're really basing it on last year, which was the end of this crazy market. In New York, it does take about 3 months, would you say, John, to close? So the time you put that offer in, that's worth, 2 to 3 months. But that's what I generally tell people to put aside. Could be 3 months, could be.
Yeah, New York is always, you have that, 60-day timeline, and then with a 30-day cushion for the seller. So typically you're looking at a 60 to 90 day for sure.
Right. So that's why when we're looking at these COVID numbers, John, I was pulling it based on, right, October of last year. So now we're still up in Brooklyn and Queens. We are up 37% of this time last year, which I think is so interesting because that market was so dead in Q1, Q2, then Q3 sort of started picking back up. So now we are, 37% over last year. We're down still in Brooklyn and Queens, 1% on inventory. What does that mean? That means there are not enough homes to go around. There is no inventory. And the average home price is $915,000. And I did pull condo apartments because I know, I do a lot of the co-ops too. It's about $385,000 Brooklyn and Queens. So I know I have a lot of my Suffolk and my Nassau on here. So I broke that up a little bit. Guess what, guys? As per the MLS, John, down 17% from this time last year. So I hope that sort of shows it's cooling a little bit, right? Shouldn't scare you. I'll show you the next slide has more of a 10-year graph, but we are versus October of last year, which was that frenzy, right? It was that everyone trying to close before the end of the year and get to the suburbs. We're down to that. Inventory is also down about 1.5 points. So same thing, not enough homes to go around. Average home price in Nassau, $798,000. Suffolk is $688,000. So I do have to say there are such extremes in these markets. I can break it down for you guys if you want to, send me an email. Say, Melissa, I'm looking at this school district, for example. I need to stay in Smithtown schools or Huntington schools. I can break this down just by that area, which makes it a little less scary. So then we can hyper focus on average home price. Interest rates, John, that's everyone's question of the day. 30-year fixed, I pulled, as you said before, it's just over 3%. And, I guess you could talk trends, but where do you see it going? And what does it mean to be at 3% interest rate?
So rates, rates have gone up a little bit in the last several weeks, and they're going to start trending up. It's just only a matter of time till they start going up. Rates about 6 months ago were sub 3, which was around 2.75. They are now, toying with 3, 3.125, 3.25, depending on the product, the FICO scores, credit scores, all that stuff. Where they're going, they will be going up. So this is a good thing, right? You want to see housing market typically when interest rates go up, housing markets go down.
Mm-hmm.
But with that higher interest rate, you kind of going to pay more over time. So today is, with the housing prices and the low rates, it's probably the best time to do it.
I was just gonna say,
because-
and people get a little slow around the holidays. I always say the sleepers are like November, December. So don't take your foot off the gas if you guys are still starting to look and all that. Don't say, oh, let me pick it up in January, because you and 97% of your friends are gonna say the same thing.
So you want, Melissa, so let's touch on that a second. So
yeah.
if you're thinking of buying buying down the road, either it be 3 months, 6 months, it's never too soon to start talking to Melissa, myself, just to get your finances in order, right? Because it doesn't mean you have to go for a loan. It just puts you in a better position going forward when you do start really aggressively looking. So typically, I always say we want to start your process 3 months before you're about to start
Yeah.
really, really looking, because it puts your finances in a position where we know what we have to do, where you have to be, and and how much money you're going to potentially need. So
yeah, no, I think it's great, and you can't, you just can't plan it. It can be fast, and it can be something where, oh my gosh, I saw this house, I have to have it, blah, blah, blah. We can do that, but having all your players lined up and getting your homework done and all the things that we all learned, St. Joe's taught me well, right? There you go. But I just feel like it's one of those things that you have to plan, and this is a big decision, and it's some of the biggest, it's the biggest thing you'll buy sometimes in your life. So, all right, this is my most recent one, same thing, just we're in contract. It's in Port Jeff Station, which has just been such a hot spot too. I think there's a lot of first-time home buyers going. I was saying, John, we can't really, me as an agent, I can't steer anyone into one particular town, but people do ask all the time, John, what are some of the hot towns right now on Long Island?
And I can discuss that. So it depends
Yes.
on, we want to see what areas, and that's one of my questions, what potential areas are looking, because then it helps Melissa as your agent to really dissect that particular, those areas. But I can always, kind of tell you where the hot markets are.
Yeah.
And
what I've been doing, even
most of Long Island are,
yeah,
are hot, so.
I was gonna say it's pretty
It all
much
depends on
hot.
where you want to be.
Right. But I think too, like, if people, even for second home buyers or people looking to get out, maybe they want just a little pied a terre, like a little vacation house, sort of the outskirts of the Hamptons and the North Fork has been really, on my radar, even as an investor. Things that you don't necessarily need that hot zip code that everyone wants to be in, fine, but you get the beauty of beaches, or maybe you want walking trails, or there's something about each town on Long Island that you can find, maybe a better value one zip code over, so to speak. So don't get so stuck on that, that one area. So this is over 10 years, and I will get you guys a copy. I know, Neil, you're going to share our information with everyone, but we can send you guys this presentation. But really, I think this chart should not scare you. Obviously you see what that big spike was. That was that Q3 of last year, right? Where everyone was kind of getting crazy right before the end of the year, right before the holidays, all that. That's where it really spiked. So we saw the most number of sales at the highest price point. So now looking over, sort of where 2021, this is through, mid-year, I guess, right through October. And we are looking at a downtrend, which is fine, right? The median, the black line, right? The sales price is continually going up, but look at the trend, right? Over the last 10 years, we're actually starting to level out a little bit to more of a normal price point. We all know what happened, even if we showed what 2005, 2006, 2007, those prices were high, right? We took a little bit of a downturn. It's kind of auto correcting. And I think that's kind of what John and I are seeing in general, is we're kind of leveling off. I wouldn't say, oh my gosh, get nervous, things are plummeting. Absolutely not. It's really just kind of coming back to a normal pace, which is still a little bit higher, but great to be a seller, but also if you can find the value, it's still great to be buying right now with, like John said, the interest rates being where they are. So that's pretty much, any comments on this one? I feel like, trend wise, John, don't you feel the same? The fever isn't as there as it was last year, but it's still
there. That, that certain price
Yeah.
range, that certain market is still, you're still having 15 to 20 people deep on, at open houses, putting offers. It's that higher end stuff that is starting to kind of trickle down a little bit.
Mhm.
But if you just got to put your best foot forward today in this market. But it is definitely, people are kind of getting,
Yeah.
they're getting to the
Norm-
point where it's normalizing, hopefully,
It's
and
normal.
whatever that normal price will be soon, we'll see it soon.
Yeah,
But
hopefully we'll see, right? Exactly. And I mean, always a plug for, shameless plug, but I do always talk about construction and don't always look for the house that has all the bells and the whistles and the jewelry the house that's done turnkey. You are paying for that, right? You are going to pay, you're going to wait in line, you are going to be, you'll have a bidding war. It's just a product that it will always, new construction or newly renovated will always have that demand. And when you're in this kind of market, it does look, it's easier for first-time home buyers. Say the kitchen cabinets are brown and they're not white, right? Say, I always tease, I love a good pink bathroom, right? The bathroom's perfectly fine, but your tile is pink. Okay, fine, we'll deal with that later. But it's one of those things where looking past those cosmetic things in this market is my biggest tip, is just sort of going and loving the location, loving the your yard, your neighbors, everything that you can't change, and then sort of working on the things that you can down the road. But this is sort of where we end, and then I can keep this for questions and answers. And Neil, I know you want to do another poll, but any other questions, feel free. John and I are both Instagram fanatics. So
yeah, I'm actually, as we were writing that, as you were saying that, I'm gonna put my contact info in the chat with my
Perfect.
Instagram. So feel free to reach out, connect with me. I do share some market stuff, but reach out to me as much as you need. I love questions. I love meeting new people, and I'll
good at
be happy to
texting.
connect
John, John will text you back, call you back, DM, whatever. We're really very accessible, and I think that's what I had mentioned when you're trying to find that team. It's important to get people who want to work with you and who aren't so bogged down and saying, you don't want people who are complaining in a market like this. You want your professionals to encourage you and to guide you. So I think hopefully we answered a lot of questions, but I will stop sharing. And then let's see.
Great. Melissa, I actually have a question. You did mention the down payment and then also the closing costs. But banks also look to see if you have at least a couple months worth of mortgage payments also statutory too. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was going to say that's how much money you want in the bank, John.
So so depending on the product, again, I'm always going to go depending on the product, because some product doesn't require you to have any reserves left in the bank, right? We, as a rule of thumb, you want to have a few months, right? Just for that nest egg, but some products require 6 months, 12 months, 9 months, depending on the product. So, but your Fannie Mae, typical Fannie Mae loan, conventional conforming, really, they're not looking for many reserves.
Right. We got a good question in the chat about an emergency fund. So yeah, you have the 5% down, you have your closing costs, you have your repairs. But I think in general, and this is just me, like if I were your big sister or your cousin, I mean, we generally say, right, it should be 6 months of an emergency fund. And I think COVID sort of showed everyone that, like, how many people lost their jobs or had to switch jobs or things changed or whatever it may have been. 6 months for backup. I know it says to buy furniture. That's kind of that depends on your taste, right? But I think, right, John, wouldn't you say in general, as a homeowner yourself, 6 months?
Yeah, I would, I mean, listen, it definitely gives you a nice nest egg. But when you mention furniture, keep in mind, if you're buying a house, you don't want to buy furniture. You don't want to buy anything. You don't want to take on new debts.
My husband actually said the same thing.
That's a huge thing.
Don't buy a car if John's
anything.
putting all your paperwork in. I'm taking you out to see houses. You're getting ready to buy this home. Don't buy a car. Don't change your job. Don't buy anything big ticket items, because it dings that credit, right? And then he's got to, not only do you get your pre-approval, your pre-qualification, but then when you actually go to get your house closed, right, John, then they're pulling it all again. Right. So it's definitely,
we're doing spot checks. We're seeing, but if we see a payment to something on a bank statement, we're going to question what is that payment going to?
Yeah.
Is that new debt that we didn't see? So just keep everything status quo.
Right.
Just
and documenting things, I work, my husband works for big union contractors. So I know he's got a lot of guys who are in the union. Oftentimes they have a ton of W-2s. Keeping your paperwork in order. And I've been seeing this now. One of my clients is also in a union. So he has 70, John, 70 W-2s. So for the loan officer, they're like, oh my goodness, a lot in the, sound and movie and TV production, it's tough. So the more organized you are as a buyer, it helps all of us out,
And when I had that initial conversation, Melissa, I'm going to be very thorough. I'm going to tell you what you need to know. I'm going to tell you what you need to get. So you're not going in dark,
right.
It's
no BS with us, John.
You're going to know. And I pretty much will touch on every point before you even get pre-approved. So you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
I actually had another question. So a buddy of mine, I'm trying to find exactly what happened to the home that he just was purchasing. But basically, there was an issue with the value price and the appraisal, and he got hit with some PMI issues. John, could you explain what PMI exactly?
Yeah. So PMI is private mortgage insurance. So anytime you're putting down less than 20%, you're going to have an extra insurance payment, right? So in your friend's case, it sounds like his appraisal, his contract price was X. It came in, the appraised value came in a little bit lower. So they had to restructure his financing to make it work. And now it's showing him putting down less than 20% down. So he'll have private mortgage insurance. And depending again on the product, the type of loan, PMI can go away on all conventional loans once you hit a certain equity position in the house, right? So it could either be from values going up, from prepaying your mortgage, doing renovations where it's adding value, then you can get that PMI removed at some point. If it's an FHA loan, a government loan mortgage, then depending on the down payment, it's either 11 years you could get rid of PMI or it's life of the loan. So it depends on the product, but PMI is private mortgage insurance. It's just an extra insurance payment that's not benefiting you. It has.
Yeah.
It's super cheap.
It's like, I know we can't say exact prices. I mean, but I think even when 6 years ago, when I first purchased, I want to say it was maybe $200. Maybe now it's less.
It's
like
now it's under $100.
Yeah.
In most
don't be
cases,
afraid. They want you to buy a house, right? They want you to not feel afraid to not have that 20% down, because at the end,
And the lenders, in this market, most people are conditioned to say, all right, I need 20% in this market. But on a typical market, banks like the PMI mortgages because one, it gives you a little bit better interest rate. It protects the bank on insurance, level. So PMI, it's actually cheaper in some cases. So
yeah, don't be afraid. And a good question that we did get, first-time home buyers program. So I think that kind of means a first-time home buyers product. So is there something out there now that you recommend for the first-time home buyers, John, that I haven't?
Most first-time home buyers products are, with little money down. It's either an FHA loan, 3.5% down, a conventional loan with 3% down. So those are your typical FHA loans. It sounds like, beneficial to join a first-time home buyer program. If they're mentioning maybe grants, different county grants, that you have to go out and find. Banks don't really give you the grants, but you're not seeing many grants. You're not seeing many grants in this market.
I was just going to say, we used to have something through Long Island Board of Realtors, which I'm part of, for first-time home buyers. It was, pretty negligible, but it's always something that, I could send out to people. And really it's asking about stuff, different counties and programs and stuff like that. But they're really, like John said, there's not a lot happening right now because of that, kind of this crazy market.
Yeah.
But no, definitely.
There's, if you're a police officer, you're a nurse, certain industries, you get some closing cost discounts, so those I always honor. If you're a, first responder, if you're working in a hospital, I'm always getting you $500 a minimum off of closing costs. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it does. It adds to your pocket.
Definitely. No, I think that's great. We got a lot of great questions, Neil. Anything else or?
Yeah, right now it's a seller's market, right? Technically, it's still a seller's market. Is that trend going to continue into 2022?
So I guess really
it most likely will be.
Yeah. What is the seller? What I told you guys before about that inventory, right? That was my quick stats. When we have less inventory than there are people looking to buy, you create yourself a seller's market. So really, sellers in this I would say the crazy numbers have gone away. I did get a few listings that we called it the make me move price. Like people would just say, let's put a crazy price and see if we get it. And then maybe we'll move. And I think that those are starting to go away because I think buyers, specifically buyers who are working with buyers agents, they know this, right? They know that price is crazy. I showed you that trick about finding the recently sold on your Zillow app, right? Switch your filter to just sold or recently sold. Look at what those prices really are in that neighborhood. Look at the neighbors, everything. Then you can, buyers they're seeing through that now. We have so many more tools on our hands, even as agents, to say, 1.2 million for a house that should probably be $799 is just not realistic. So those are starting to weed themselves out, but definitely still a seller's market. Like I said, the way of getting around that is to try to find a home that not every single person wants, right? It doesn't have the white kitchens with the white backsplashes and, those HGTV trends, as John said, just sort of going into that. It's a big help for sure. But yeah, seller's market.
Yeah, and I actually had another pressing question myself. So if I'm touring a house, is what I'm interested in, and what are the things I should be looking, on infrastructural.
I can put, I was going to say, I can always put a contractor's hat on for that question, but we always recommend, in this market, we've been seeing people waiving their home inspection, which is crazy, and don't feel pressured into doing that if you don't want to. What does that mean? So when you guys go in, you're looking to buy a home, you're walking through, you're saying, I'm not sure about that roof. I'm not really sure about that boiler, right? Your first time home buyers, maybe you don't have someone going with you or you're just with your agent. I like to walk through really with builder's eyes. That's kind of how I go. And I say, yep, we have to get that home inspection. They will give you, it's probably $500, $600 for a home inspection company to come in after your offer is accepted, right? So you go and you make your offer, your agent puts it in for you. You have your pre-approval letter from John, everything goes in, you get the house. What does that mean? Nothing yet until you sign the contracts, until you walk through with an inspector, right? And learn about what's happening in that house, things that you could potentially negotiate. If it's maybe the 30-year-old roof, and one of the homes that I showed in the pictures, it needed a completely new roof, and we were actually ended up being able to negotiate the purchase price down about $15,000, which in this market doesn't happen. But guess what? We were in the right place at the right time, and the sellers were willing to do that. Right now, they could also say, sorry, buyer beware. You're buying a house with a roof that needs to be replaced, and then you kind of do that after the fact. Either way, home inspection is important. We use that. We get that done right before you sign contracts as a buyer, so you feel comfortable. You kind of know what you're getting. You get to look at that report forever and ever, which I still refer back sometimes to mine. But it's just one of those really great sort of peace of mind things. And yeah, even in a seller's market, it's worth having. And oftentimes, if it's something that you're okay with, like I mentioned, I'm working with my cousin who's a first-time homebuyer. He's very handy. His dad is handy. They're really, in construction themselves. They'll say, listen, I want to get a home inspection, but it's just for my benefit. I will not use this in my offer, right? I will not use this to negotiate my offer back down. And that also makes the seller feel like, okay, they just want to know the condition of the home, but they don't want to sort of hit me for, I want new flooring and, my electric, outlets are wrong, stuff like that. So it helps, but yeah, it's worth it to have. And going with either with an agent or a family member or someone who has a little bit of a handy side helps too.
Right. And Neil, that's a good question too, for when it comes to mortgage too. Are there railings on a stairway? Are there's any kind of, health or hazard issues? So, when it comes to mortgage, we're looking at that as well. So.
Right. Yeah, because he's got to send an appraiser in, right? So think about that, right? You're getting a loan. Yep. After we got into contract, we're just about to close, right? Usually about 2 to 3 weeks it takes to get your appraisal ordered. So someone's coming into that house, taking a bunch of pictures and reporting back to your bank saying it's safe. It's exactly what they're saying it's going to be. It's the value is there, right? You talked about the appraisal coming in short. that has been happening if the seller puts that crazy price on it, or someone really needs to be in that house and they're overpaying, you know, the bank knows, right? They're not going to give you a loan on something that's not worth it. So we've seen that a lot, right, John? So I had someone that they were really concerned here in Huntington. It was in Dix Hills, but it doesn't matter, right? That the comps are the comps. And looking at that app, right, you could see what the neighbors and everything sold for. But they had a house that was like $799. The buyers came in and offered $850 or $899, something crazy. And they were concerned about the appraisal. The sellers were concerned it was not going to appraise. So they basically said, you can offer that, but you need to pay cash to make up the difference.
Oh,
right? So
so
that
is
appraisal.
that legal? Oh, no.
Well, so let
Okay.
me add on that too. If the appraisal comes in lower, right, the bank is now their starting point is the lower of the appraised value of the contract price. So if the value comes in lower, now that down payment for the bank size is off of that lower amount. So the difference for them to do it, they have to come out of pocket with that, you know. And when Melissa says cash, it's, you know, it's gonna come some way from a bank, but it's
Yes, it's not cash in a
you gotta make up the
suitcase.
difference.
Right.
Okay.
We get that question a lot, Neil. You cannot bring a duffel
Cash in
bag
the sense that, yeah.
full of toothfairy
Okay.
money to a closing
Yeah.
table. I've got
Neil, you'll be surprised. People do ask, can I just bring suitcases up? And no, you can't.
It really must come from your bank account. Yeah.
Everything is sourceable.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Great. We're going to launch the last poll. Let's find it one moment here. Question number 2 is, do you feel more prepared for the home ownership process after today's webinar?
Oh, hopefully we didn't scare too many people. Thank you, guys. No, some once. That's good. But really, you'll all get my email, and just consider me, you know, a friend in the industry, and John as well. Any questions that come up, I always call them doorknob questions, right? When you leave my office, you're always like, oh, I had 5 more things to ask. So just reach out. We're here, and
Yeah,
this is
connect with us and say hello.
Yeah, definitely. So it looks like everyone, though, 100%. Got 100% good, positive feedback here. So excellent. So Melissa and John, this was fantastic. Thank you for sharing your valuable time here with us today. We appreciate all the pointers and tips. Melissa, look forward to working with you again in future events, and we both enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
You too.
Hey, guys.
Okay, take care. Let's see.